This is CE Group 3, and our video presentation is over Sub-Saharan Africa. Our group roles are as follows. Role 1, Overview of Realm, Miguel Beza. Role 2, 3 Key Terms, Bernice Villegas. Role 3, Summary of Article, Colton Monteith. Role 4, 2 discussion questions, June Hopkins. And Role 5, Producer, Cody Acosta. Sub-Saharan African countries and regions. Sub-Saharan Africa is one of the most rich and diverse regions in the world, yet it is one of the most poorly understood. The region is corrupt with many problems such as poverty, disease, and violence, yet it is also rich with many resources, natural resources, and plants and minerals. Geographers often picture this continent as having only 2 major diversions, such as North Africa, an Arab and Berber realm, and Sub-Saharan Africa, a more ethnically diverse realm. Both are portrayed to be not as developed as other parts of the country. This is true to a certain extent, as some modernized areas of Africa have taken longer to develop than others. The African landmass. Africa's total landmass is around 11.7 million square miles, while the region of focus for our group is Sub-Saharan Africa. It is roughly 8.7 million square miles. Sub-Saharan Africa is of course the area within the continent of Africa. It's located south of the Sahara Desert. According to the United Nations, the realm contains all African countries and territories that are fully and partially south of the Sahara that participate in global trade. The continent is located between the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean, a primary spot for trade. The Sub-Saharan population density. The majority of the Sub-Saharan population clusters in port cities and in areas near the coast, as you can see by Ibadan, Akura in the western coast, Conakry on the further west, and on the east there's Addis Abadan, and near the south there's Duban and Maputo. These are primarily trade hubs, often port cities. These areas and regions are often lush in natural resources, and thus people tend to flock and gather to these areas. You can see up in the north, the desert area is sparsely populated, of course, the desert being so difficult to live. The middle region, where it is lush in jungles, you can see density is the highest. Major climate regions of Africa. Africa contains 3 major climates: tropical, subtropical, and highland climates. The one with the most diverse is the tropical climates. Africa contains tropical rainforests, tropical monsoons, tropical savannas, while also humid subtropical. Also contains desert, semi-arid, Mediterranean, and oceanic regions. Africa contains a very diverse group of climate regions, ranging from deserts such as the Sahara and rainforest in the Congo, both rich and lush with its own respective natural resources. Sub-Saharan African Human Development Index. On this chart in 2017, Algeria had the highest human development at a 0.754, while Tunisia had the second highest HDI at 0.735. This data is from 2017, but in more recent data, the Sub-Saharan African region has seen a 35% growth in HDI since 1990. 12 countries in the region are now in the medium human development group, and 4 countries, Botswana, Gabon, Mauritius, and Seychelles, are now in the high human development group. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest regional loss due to inequality at 31%, and Rwanda has the largest share of seats in parliament in the world held by women at 55.7%. The Sub-Saharan African GDP, on the other hand, on a June 2020 update, the outlook of 2020 for Sub-Saharan Africa was considerably worse than anticipated in April and subject to much uncertainty. The economic activity in Africa this year was projected to contract by some 3.2%, reflecting a weaker external environment and measures to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. Growth is projected to recover to 3.4% in 2021, subject to continued gradual easing of restrictions that has started in recent weeks, and importantly, if the region avoids the same epidemic dynamics that have played out elsewhere. Africa's authorities have acted swiftly to support the economy, but these efforts have been constrained by failing revenues and limited fiscal space. Africa's economic growth is dependent on how the country handles the virus and also its own institutions maintaining the policies and infrastructures set in place. Africa's GDP is very uncertain at this moment. Only time will tell by the forecast of the economy and the virus spreading. Sub-Saharan culture. Sub-Saharan Africa contains over 43 different countries and 6 island areas. With this many countries, of course, the culture is massive and diverse. They value many textiles, body art, dance, and musical forms. Throughout the many different countries, culture developed in various different ways, although similar, perhaps in context, but diverse in their own minor micromanaged ways. Mask and textiles are considered forms of expression and art. These are valued highly amongst the societies, especially within crafting societies. As previously stated, Sub-Saharan Africa contains over 43 countries. This means the ethnicities and languages are diverse and very numerous, and many dialects often are developed and even today are unaware of. The Afro-Asiatic, Nilo-Saharan, Niger-Congo A, Niger-Congo B, also known as Bantu, Khoisan, and Australasian are all linguistic family types. These branches have many dialects that branch from them as well. There are many different languages spoken in Africa. Vocabulary defined. The 3 terms we chose were HIV and AIDS, infrastructure for mineral swap, and microcredit. These 3 key terms were chosen because of their relevance and key structure to the Sub-Saharan Africa development and current events. Our current events article was written by Laura Owakes and published on April 24th, 2020. The title of the article is Africa Not Ready for COVID-19 Mental Health Issues. The focus on the article is about the impact that COVID-19 has had on the African population's mentality. About the article's focus again, going back in time during the HIV and AIDS epidemic in Africa, there was a fear of getting tested because it was brought on a stigma from the community. The mentality of those infected with COVID-19 would not have to worry about infrastructure for mineral swap and getting a microcredit because their focus is now turned to whether or not the community is going to shun or harass them for risk of COVID-19 infection. Some have expressed concern about catching COVID-19, and the community says that they are having an emotional breakdown and it has affected themselves and their family. One lady, after being diagnosed, would be known as the Corona Kid, and that people should stay away from this home. Their home has been known as the Corona House in the community and is shunned widely. One lady that was diagnosed with COVID-19 talked about her concerns while she was in her isolation period, saying people wrote on social media they were planning to kill me. And I also got anonymous phone calls from community saying they were planning to kill me in the hospital so I wouldn't come back. The World Health Organization, or better known as the WHO, says that around 50% of those in Africa with depression do not seek any treatment because there is lack of mental health information. The stigma that is in this place and cultural issues. A professor at Columbia University has drawn parallels between the mental health of COVID-19 and the Africa Ebola outbreak that happened between 2014 and 2016. The outbreak was the largest and deadliest outbreak in the history of Ebola. It was discovered that those who had contracted Ebola would not only have their health to worry about, but also fear for mental health issues such as depression and harassment from their communities. The same fear and depression is also beginning to take form within communities again because of COVID-19. The professor would state that nearly 50% of families, survivors, and those who had contact with survivors of Ebola had PTSD and depression. There is a lack of resources to take care of these issues. One study shows that Africa only has an average of 1.4 health workers per 100,000 people. Compare that to around the world's average is 9 mental health workers to every 100,000 people. Africa is, according to the president of Pan-African Psychology Union, says that there are poor health systems in general on the continent, and that pushes mental health to the lowest order on the spectrum. The result is a lack of education and preparedness in order to identify and deal with mental health issues during a crisis. With that said, our discussion questions are as follow. Discussion question 1 is, think about if you had the options to take a COVID-19 test, but the results could possibly alter the well-being of your mental, emotional state due to your living with a judgmental community. Would you take the test and deal with ongoing harassment or death threats from neighbors if the results came back positive? Or would you opt out of the test so that you can be free of possible stigma surrounding the virus and possibly harm others around you? Explain why or why not. Discussion question 2. Consider you are a healthcare worker and you are truly passionate about your job and shaping the future. You are given the job opportunity to move across to Africa to help with advancing treatment and healthcare for millions of people. However, you know that Sub-Saharan Africa has one of the highest virus/murder rates and healthcare workers are few and far between, so you would be working non-stop. Would you move across the world to fulfill a job that could possibly improve quality of life within the country? Explain why or why not. Thank you for your time.